Hi everybody, welcome back to Theology, where we drink tea and talk theology. Today we are drinking the Christmas breakfast tea, as we have been throughout all of Advent. It is now the last week of Advent, it's the week before Christmas, and we are talking about love, which is the final theme in Advent. Love is so important to the Christmas story, and really the Bible story as a whole. The whole reason the Christmas story happens, the whole reason that we exist, the whole reason God created the world and universe and everything in it is out of love. And it's all because God loved us. God is love. He is literally the definition of love, and everything he does comes out of that being, out of love. So the book of John, or like John and 1, 2, 3 John all talk so much about love, and 1 John 4, 7 to 12 is a really nice summary that I think of many ways that we're meant to show love. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. And this love of God was made manifest to us, that God sent his only Son into the world, so that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we have loved God, but that he loved us, and sent his Son to be the propitiation of our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. So this verse just talks so much about how, that verse, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, but also the verse, the two greatest commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. The reason we love God with all our heart, soul, and mind is because he first loved us, so it's an act of reciprocation. And then we love our neighbor because it is an outflowing of the love that we have from God. And the entirety of Christmas comes from a place of love. It is about the literal definition of love being God coming and descending down to us in a human form so that we can understand and come to know him and be in our own personal relationship with him. Having love at Christmas, especially for the Advent time just before his birth, in many ways makes the most sense, because Jesus is love because he is God. Him being sent is also an act of love from God to us to show us how much he loves us. Jesus' whole entire life and ministry is characterized by love. Everything he does is love. Love is what holds it all together. We can only love our neighbor out of the overflow of love that God has given us. We can only love because God first loved us. The only reason we can love anything is because of the love God has for us, whether we acknowledge that or not. All love, all real love, flows from him and into, love is woven into the inner beings of our creation. We are created out of love. But love is never meant to be easy. It probably hasn't been easy for God to continuously love us, even through all the things that we've done wrong, and he continues to extend his love to us, to make his love known to us, even when we personally or collectively and throughout history have kept turning away from him. When we read the Bible and the stories of the Israelites consistently turning away from God, rejecting him, worshipping other idols, and just loving other gods more than him, it must have been hard for him. We think about what it would be like to be in God's position in that. And these are the people that you've chosen, that you want to show your love to the world through. And they just constantly reject you and constantly ignore you. It would be so hard. And we as Christians, we continue to do the same thing. We turn away from God and we ignore him and we think we know better than him and all these things. We don't want a God who changes and challenges us. We want a God that we can give advice to and tell him how he should do things, which just isn't quite how it works. We don't want a God who loves us and who actually cares really deeply about us. Or we might think we do, but it's really hard to accept that, because with that comes this huge challenge. And this flows out even more when we look around the world and see the choices people make, and the choices that we make that cause suffering and increase the amount of hurt and brokenness that there is in the world, and come out of that place of brokenness of the world. It must be really hard for God to continue to love us and for him to continue to extend his love to us. We don't make it easy for him. He does it anyway, and he will continue to do it. And this is what the act of love at Christmas is all about. Continuing to give and not getting anything back, and yet doing it anyway. Just continuing to reach out and reach out and reach out, hoping that there might be some reciprocation, but not always coming, or coming in ways that are twisted and hard and muddled. And this is where the love flows out of, the love that we are meant to have for one another, the love that we're meant to have for the world around us, and the love that we're meant to have for God. Now, I think one of the biggest things in today's world is the difference between love and approval. Love does not mean automatic approval. People do things that I don't approve of, but I go, that really just wasn't a great idea. I really fundamentally disagree with the decision you're making. That doesn't mean I stop loving them. In fact, it means that I should push through that to continue loving them. Like sometimes my brothers do something that just really, really frustrates me. And like, it can be hard to love them in those moments sometimes because it's frustrating. But I continue to love them anyway, because I do love them. And if I let one moment define our entire relationship, then that just is not great, is it? But it doesn't mean that I think what they did was right. And that goes for everybody. And it's even more so with God, because he actually knows wrong and right. We've chosen to define right and wrong for ourselves. And so sometimes I get it wrong and sometimes I get it right, but I'm just trying to listen to God and what he's saying. But he actually knows what's right or wrong. He knows how our actions are going to hurt other people in ways that we might not even think about. And he doesn't approve of that. He doesn't think that's good. He doesn't think that's right. He doesn't think that's the way it should be. It's what he continues to do, is love us even when we're doing these things that he just doesn't approve of and that he doesn't think are right. I don't love the things in the world, and neither does God. There are many things in this world, many things of this world in particular, that I don't love. But there are things that I do love that are in the world, and I want to see them redeemed. That's what the love is the love is wanting. The love leads me to desire redemption. And because my love comes through God, it means I want it to be redeemed through him as well, as everything I love flows from him and through me. I am a vessel that which his love passes through as it goes out into the world. And I want to see everything redeemed through his love, because I think that is the only true redemption that there really is. Obviously, I can love something, so I want it to be redeemed. So obviously I can't approve of everything about that. I love my fiance, but I don't approve of everything that he does. But that just means I want to see more of him redeemed and come back to Christ. And the same with myself, and the same with my family, and so many of the people I love. Love is the defining characteristic of the entire biblical story. The whole story is about God constantly calling people back into a loving relationship with him. And we have all of these stories recorded so that we know God is love. And that's what holds the whole thing together. That is why it's the greatest thing that remains. He didn't have to do any of it. He didn't have to make things beautiful. He didn't have to make things colourful. He didn't have to do so many of the things that he has done. Like, why do we go out into the world and look at the trees and go, wow, they're beautiful, and look at the sunsets and go, that's beautiful, and when you're driving home and it's a little bit rainy and it goes across the street lights and it looks like an impressionist painting and you're just filled with beauty and you just sit there, this is just beautiful. Why do we experience beauty like that? Why do we experience that? There is no reason for us to find things beautiful. But God gave us that ability to find things beautiful, because when you find something beautiful, you can find yourself in yourself to love it. Yeah, that's really one of the amazing things, is that we can see colors in the world, that we can hear sounds and interpret it as beautiful music with rhythm and melodies and harmonies. There are so many things about this world that we don't have to interpret that way, but we do. And we see them that way because of the way we are created and designed, is to find things beautiful, to find things colourful. And he gave us that ability because he loves us. He chose to do that from himself as the definition of love. He did everything because he loved us and because he first loved us. It all comes out of this place of love and desire to be in relationship with us. He shows us his love not only through what he did, but what he created and what he continues to create. And he shares his love for us, with us. It's not something that he keeps to himself. It's something that he wants us to know about and to experience as well. We are loved so wholly and perfectly and completely by God. We are entirely undeserving of that love, and that's not important. You know, how deserving we are or undeserving just isn't the point of God's love, because it's all about grace, and you don't deserve grace. It's what's given. We can never do anything that would mean we deserve grace. We can never do anything that would mean we deserve God's love. And it's just, he just doesn't care about that. And sometimes we get so caught up in, you know, I don't deserve this. I'm a terrible person. Why does God give me good gifts? All of that stuff. But it's just not what it's about for him. He's like, yeah, you don't deserve it, so what? I'm gonna give it to you anyway, just accept the gift. Like, you can still do awesome things with it, okay? Like, so what? You don't deserve it. That's not why I'm doing this. It's just, he just wants to give us his love. And he chose to do that, and he continues to choose to do that. Love is a gift, and you aren't meant to deserve a gift. It's just given regardless. From that gift of love, it should flow out. We should love one another. So how do we love one another? If we've been given this love, how does that come out of us? Because love isn't meant to only be between them. It's something that's meant to flow out. Children who are raised in a loving environment are raised in that environment with the love between their parents. And that should flow out into the kids, so their kids also feel loved. So how do we love one another? And we have to look at how Jesus loved. How did Jesus love others? So when I read the New Testament, some things that I notice, and this is how I try to love others like Jesus did, but I would love to hear any ideas you have on other things he might have done, because this is definitely not an exhaustive list. But some things he did is he constantly went to meet them. He met people where they were at, and he heard what they needed beyond what they said, but what God revealed that they needed. So we need to be tapping into what God is saying about how we can best love the people in each moment. Love doesn't mean ease or absence of challenge in these places, but in all those things, the love came first. Any challenge he set, any difficulty that would arise because he felt love for the people. You know, when you look at the stories with some of the Pharisees, it came out of his love for people and desire that they would be able to have the best, that these things came up, because their whole thing was picking holes. He never argued to win points. We do that so often. We take the Bible and weaponize it. And not Bible as a sword to defend, but the Bible is like a weapon to stab and kill. And use it like online and take verses to cut people down and make them feel awful about themselves. And that's not what Jesus did. He never argued to win points or win a fight. When he did engage in arguments, it was always about showing love to someone. And his points always came back to love. And that's what it's all about, is Jesus showing love to people. Truly showing love for each other, and showing love in the way each other needs happens best when we aren't trying to guess out of our own humanity, but when we let God use us and trust God's divinity. There are so many ways we can love others, and that we can show others we love them by what we say and how we respond to them, and what you do for them, and what we do with them, and what we give to them. There are just so many ways. You know, if you want to know some more, you could look at the 5 love languages. And it's often so easy to fall into patterns with people that we do already love, going, oh, but they know I love them, so I don't need to try. But a kind word, or thankfulness, or doing something to just take the load off of it can really go a long way. And it's about going, what do they need most in this moment? You know, sometimes my default way of showing love isn't the best way to show them love at the moment. I often will make people a cup of tea if I think they're feeling stressed. If I show people love by making people, you know, offering to make people cups of tea, then that's not going to work for my fiance who doesn't like tea. It's not showing love to how he needs it. It's showing love for how I think I should show it. Instead, I need to think about what's the way that I can show them I love them in a way that they can receive it. Because I know I love them. I don't need to convince myself that I love them. But I want them to know that I love them in this moment. But also there are people who might be near us that we don't have that close of a connection with. Like maybe someone new is sitting next to you at church, or there are people in your church that you don't know very well. Or you're walking, there's like co-workers who you kind of give or take. You know, you're not close with them, but you don't dislike them, or even if you do dislike them, same goes. And those who we might typically ignore or overlook, I will not even think of as someone we should care about. How can we see them and let them know that they are loved and valued as well? How can we lift them up so that they know that they are loved and valued? What is something we can do each day to love as Jesus loved in the world, and seeing the people who aren't always seen? He might not have loved the things of the world, but he loved the people in it. I would love to hear any ideas you have on the way we can love the people who are in the world just as Jesus did, or things you have found helpful in the past of people showing love to you. Yeah, I love hearing ways that we do that for each other. Thank you all for watching. Bye!